and figure out who you are. But if you are in a leadership position, be humble enough to take a step back and identify who you are for the sake of your people. Because what leaders don't understand is that they're good and bad decisions. There's always a person at the end of that. And a person will either be good because of your decision, or they will experience bad because of your decision. So it's not always you alone. That responsibility carries people.
Hi and welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. I'm your host Neha Murthy, and let's begin with a quick introduction of peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year, and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And now for our guest, we have with us today Enrique Acosta Gonzales, the CEO of Triad Leadership Solutions. Enrique is a leadership, management, and career developer who provides development opportunities for people considering leadership, those in leadership that are struggling, and executives. His personal vision is to see the day where workers do not have to go home and consume the dinner, talk about underdeveloped and unprepared leaders they work for. Enrique has served as an executive, businessman, veteran and advocate, board member, non-profit administrator, speaker, mentor, coach, and avid volunteer. Over the past 30 years, he has held numerous executive advisor and senior positions while serving in the US Navy and civilian sector. He has helped formulate and implement policies concerning morale, welfare, job satisfaction, discipline, and training of Navy and civilian personnel. We are extremely happy and honored to have someone of his stature on our interview series today. Welcome, Enrique. We are thrilled to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really my pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's absolutely our pleasure, and thank you for taking out the time to talk with us.
Absolutely.
So, hopping right in the questions, Enrique, can you tell us something about your company, Triad Leadership Solutions, that's been running for the past 3 years, and some learnings you would like to share from your varied experiences?
Yeah, I try to encapsulate 3 years into a little a minute bite, but thank you so much for having me. So Triad Leadership Solutions, just pointed, is we're a company that focuses on college level students that are transitioning from graduation into the workforce, have no idea what leadership is, would like to get a head up above all their peers, and we prepare them for their leadership roles. It's something that the world doesn't prepare us for. They just put us in it. And so I like to focus on college graduating students. And our second forte, if you will, are leaders that maybe didn't get our services and did get placed in positions of leadership and are now struggling trying to figure it out. They don't have internal mentors. They don't have folks in the company that will help them develop. That's where we come in. We take struggling leaders and, like we like to say, take them from success to success.
Wow, that's amazing. Like everyone stepping into career, like once they finish their career and they're stepping into a job, we definitely need a path and a light to go forward to. And it's amazing that you're doing that.
Oh, thank you.
So, coming to the leadership part, we all have one mentor or leader in our life, and having the right leader in the right time changes and molds an individual, especially during the budding age in the career, right? And you mentioned that while starting off in your own career, you were surrounded by undeserving leaders. What does that look like, and what advice would you give someone who's that in same position today?
Yeah, it's funny how that resonates with a lot of people because they see it day in, day out in corporate America or just in general. But you mentioned it earlier, and I was chuckling as you were saying, right? My goal is for you not to be the talk at a dinner table because of your poor leadership. And really, it boils down to that. Everybody gets to work their workday. They get exposed to all kinds of different levels of leadership. Some leaders are strong in some areas, some others are weak. But in general, leaders kind of combine into a kind of like a group And then you get the holistic view of a good leader. But there are some places that you work for a person that firstly is not whole themselves, and they end up being in a position of leadership, and now they're influencing or impacting, better yet to say, impacting your life in a negative way. And it could come in ways of like, um, micromanagement, abusive talk, um, abuse in a not a physical sense, but a mental sense. And so you end up being this worker that is just drawn out of all kind of energy by the time you get home. And then you have to go and kind of talk with your family about that person because it comes out, and people, they need to realize it really does come out. So the those type of leaders are the ones that impact you in a negative way. And we see it all the time. Those are leaders that say one thing but do another. Those are leaders that, instead of applauding and giving glory to their team, they take it and will tell you about it. So and then there's those type of leaders that use their workforce for their own personal gain, and then leave them behind as they go up the corporate ladder, and never once thanking anybody. So there's plenty of examples of different things like, but those are the three critical areas where you see these undeserving leaders, because they're only focused on themselves and not the workforce.
Definitely, that makes a lot of sense. Like when we are in an organization and we are led by someone, we would obviously need that kind of motivation to work towards. And the motivation is what you drive towards the job, right? And if you don't have that mental peace when you're working with that leader, you definitely are going to not feel good working there, right?
Right. Yeah,
Absolutely.
a very quick example is this, right? So you're working for me and you do a job, and there was something that was off, but I say, you know what? You did the best job you was capable of doing, and I am so proud of that. Can I talk to you about developing this one area that will make you just like golden? And then you can learn that. And then the next time you're going to hit it out of the park, you're going to be great at what you're going to do. And from here on out, you're going to teach somebody else and they're going to follow you. It, that kind of conversation hardly ever happens. And so, I don't know how that made you feel on your side, but just talking about it, it warmed my heart, and it made me think, wow, that's really what I need. And so that's what people need.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opening of that perspective of a leader. And as a mentor with over 30 years of experience, what would you say are the tenets of coaching?
Well, the very first one is truth. If you cannot live in truth, live by truth. So that's individual, right? So the person coaching and the person receiving the coaching or the mentorship, you have to live by truth, because that is what sets people free. It gives you an opportunity to change something that is true, or maybe uh, to propel you into greatness. And so if you start with deception and concealment and a diversion and falsehood, you'll never get to the bottom of what it really is, the problem. And so truth is the very first one. The second one is humility. There's going to be a lot of things said and a lot of things heard that will require your humility, both from the coaching aspect and for the one receiving. The coach needs to be humble enough to understand how the person is going to receive the information shared. And the person receiving has to be humble enough to understand that the coach wouldn't bring it up unless it was something that will deter me from greatness. And so I would have to kind of like swallow my ego a little in order to gain some ground. The third one would be patience. Coaching is not an overnight thing. Mentorship is not an overnight thing. It takes time, because depending on how old you were when you came into the relationship, means that's how much bad habit you have stored up, right? So if you were 25, it's much easier if you was 45, right? So because you have so much history built into you, so you have to be patient. It is a process that has to be delved into methodically and with certain steps. And sometimes you're on one step for a little while because of the impact on your life in that area. So, patience. And the fourth one I would say is hope. Hope. The coach needs to develop a hope attitude for the mentee or the person receiving coaching. And the person receiving the coaching has to also have an attitude of hope that they will come through this with the help of the coach. So I say anticipation, hope, or just an optimistic view of their future will get them a long way.
Okay, so in the light of pandemic, with the work from home situation, everyone is located at different parts of the city and at their own pace. In such a time, the term transparency comes into the limelight, right? By default, with the work patterns and that also demands, right? So, as a leader, how can one ensure transparent communication? Since oftentimes we face the issues of employees wearing a mask in front of their leaders.
Yeah, I think it boils down to the environment the leader has created. If the leader themselves are wearing a mask, everybody is wearing a mask. But if the leader is showing, like I told earlier on tenets, right? If the leader is truthful, lives by truth, then the people understand that that's their goal, right? That's their the way they are, and so they're least less likely to go dabble into the other areas that kind of you know fight against truth. But that leader needs to also be compassionate, because this world situation requires a lot of compassion, a lot of patience, a more intrusive leadership, which leaders are not used to doing. And you have to be intrusive to a point where you're not violating privacy, but know enough about your people to be sensitive enough to that when you're talking to them, you can pick up on some things that are not right, and then you can ask some questions. So, out of all the things that I've seen now, and in transparent communication in the digital world, is that it's really based off of the relationship and environment that the leader has already set in place. Now, if they did not set that in place before the pandemic, it's going to be a little harder. But guess what's going to have to happen? The leader will have to be humble. They will have to reset themselves, reset their group, reset their environment, and say, hey, look, I wasn't like this before, but I know that we need it now. So let me tell you some things about me that you may not know. And, have to be humble and, patient, and infuse hope in that group. And everybody can survive once that is done.
Absolutely, that makes so much of sense. Like knowing what the other person is going through and being humble about it solves half of the issues right there, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I believe that's going to solve a lot of issues. It won't solve all of them, but it will give you a great head start.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And before wrapping up the interview, like last, any sound bites that you would like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, anyone out there that's looking at leadership positions, and have never been in one, or you're in it and you know that you're lost, right? Uh, what I implore you to do is to take a step back and first find out who you are. If you don't know who you are, then when you get in a leadership position, not only will you be lost, you will make other people lost. And so concentrate on you while you're still not a leader and figure out who you are. But if you are in a leadership position, be humble enough to take a step back and identify who you are for the sake of your people. Because what leaders don't understand is that they're good and bad decisions. There's always a person at the end of that. And a person will either be good because of your decision, or they will experience bad because of your decision. So it's not always you alone. Uh, that responsibility carries people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that positivity at the end. And
You're welcome.
thank you so much, Enrique. It was wonderful talking to you. I personally had a learning experience, and I'm sure it's going to be the same for our audience as well.
I'm hopeful.